Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at processing bank payments and receipts within Sage 50 accounts. We've got half an hour booked in today, and hopefully you should get a little bit of time back at the end, just depending on how many questions we get. My name's Laura, and I'm a learning facilitator here at Sage, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar today. I've also got Michael on hand as well, just to answer any questions that you may have too, so make sure we keep them busy as well. So just before we get started there, just some housekeeping rules. So your mic will be muted automatically, but you'll see that there's a little question icon on the toolbar there, just on the left-hand side, where you can submit any questions that you may have for Michael. So just make sure that you pop them in there, and then we can get back to you. Demonstration based, but I will be including the slides in the handout section, and there are some links on there at the end which you might find useful. So if you do want to download those, just make sure you do that during the session. But there's also a printer friendly version as well, so if you'd like to make some notes and print those out like I would do on there, then you can get those printed out too. So today I'll be giving you an introduction into how to process bank payments and receipts within your Sage 50 account software. Following that, I'm going to go through a demonstration within the program so you can just see how that works. And then I'm going to provide you with some useful links to guides on our help centre as well there. So if you would like to further your knowledge around processing these, those would be a good one to go and have a look at as well there. And then there should be time at the end just to answer any outstanding questions that you might have as well. So make sure you pop them in there. We can keep Michael busy. So bank payments and receipts. So you can use bank payments and receipts to either pay money out of your bank account in Sage 50 accounts or receive money into it without creating a customer or a supplier account. For example, a one-off purchase or a sale perhaps. You can either enter transactions individually or as a batch if you've got multiple lines to enter. And you'll see just on the slide there where you can access these options in the software, but I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail in my system, as it can vary just depending on a few things. So what I'll do now is I'll pop into my system and we can have a look at creating some bank payments and receipts within the data. So bank payments and receipts can be accessed along the top of your bank accounts module. So down the left-hand side, you'll have all of your modules. In the middle, you've got bank accounts. So if you click on bank accounts, and it'll take you to your list of banks that you'll have within your Sage 50 accounts. I'm using version 32 professional level. So if anything looks a little bit different, it might just be because you're on an earlier version of the level of the software. If you can't see them, just along the top here, so you've got your bank payment option, and you've also got your bank receipt option. If you can't see them, it may be a few different reasons. So it might be that you don't have access to that level. If your username doesn't have access to those options, which anybody who can log in as manager can amend for you. You might also have them hidden by right-clicking on them as well. So if you can't see them along there, so if I right-click anywhere on my toolbar, you can see you do have the option to remove them, which just hides them in the background. So if I click on bank payment, you can see that's now disappeared from my toolbar along the top, and it just hides it in the background. So if you've got functions that you're not using, you can just hide them. If I right-click again on bank payment, pops it back in there for you. So it may just be that you've hidden them in the background there, or it might be your screen resolution as well. So I've got my screen fully extended on here, so you can see all of my options along the top. But if I just minimize that, you'll now see some of them are now bunched together. So under payments, if I click on that drop down, my bank payment is now showing within there. So it could also be down to your screen resolution if you can't see them. But I'll just maximize my screen just so you can see everything in there. So the bank payment and receipt windows, they look the same. One's for recording money into your bank, a bank receipt, and one is for recording money going out of it, which is the bank payment within Sage 50 accounts. But what I'll do is we'll go into bank payments first of all, just that's the most commonly used option. So if I click on bank payment at the top, and it'll open up this window. Now you'll see it's already got my 1200 bank account in the bank account column on there. That's because I had it highlighted in the background. So if I close this window and just show you, because I've got my bank highlighted there, if I clear that, so nothing selected, and I'm just going to click on bank payment again, and you'll see now there's nothing selected. But you do have a drop down box which you can click on and then you can select which bank account you want to use. So I want to use my 1200 bank account, so I'm going to click on that. So it's highlighted, click OK, and it'll pop that in for me. So there's a lot of different columns on here, which I'll go through in more detail in turn on there. You'll see some of them have got asterisks on them. So those are required fields that you would need to fill in to process either a bank payment or a bank receipt. So we've obviously got our bank that we want to use within this column. Attach, so this is something new that's in version 32. So if you can't see that in yours, it might just be that you're using an earlier version of Sage there, but it's new to version 32. It's something that customers have been asking for within the module, so you can keep track of things like receipts, for example. So it might be that you bought some office supplies, you just want to attach a receipt. If you click on the little cross icon where if you hover over it, it says add attachment. If we click on that, it'll open up a add attachment window on there. So if you've got a scanned copy of a receipt or a photo of it, you can now attach it in here just by clicking on browse, and you can browse in the background on here. So I'm just going to go to have a look, see if I've got any in my screenshots on here. Add some a bit further up on here. Let me just have a look. I can see where I've popped them. Can't locate them on there at the moment, but if we click on there, you can upload, you can scan in a picture of it on there for you. All you would then need to do is just click OK, and that's going to attach it there for you. It will give you then a little pencil icon on there. So the pencil icon will allow you to click on it, and you can then edit it if you want to. So if you've added on the wrong one, you can then just click on that, edit it, and you can remove it from there as well. It'll give you the option just to remove it, just if you wanted to do that too. The next column we've got is our date column. So that would just be the date of your receipt on there. So at the moment, it'll just pick it up from the date of the program itself on there. So it's the 15th today, so it's automatically just populated that in there. You can overtype that if you want to. There is a little calendar option on here as well, just to click on that, and you can select your date from in there as well if you wanted to do it that way. The next column is the reference column. So if you have a reference that you want to allocate it to, which can just make it easier for you to locate or search for it, it's just the same for the extra reference on there. So you might have some items which use the same reference, but within that you would need to split it down further by using the extra reference on there. So I'm going to put a reference number in here, just 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to leave the extra reference column. I don't need an extra one in there. And then our next column is our nominal code. So the nominal code, that's just going to be the nominal code to record the payment against. So you can split transactions over multiple nominal codes if needed. I've bought some office equipment, so I'm going to pop mine in against that nominal code. And you don't need to remember the nominal code that you're wanting to use. You can just search for them in here. So if I bought office equipment, I type in office and just return just to search for it. It brings up all of my nominal codes relating to office on there, and I'm going to select my office equipment and click OK to that, and it populates that nominal code for me in there. The next column is department. So you'll see that's also got an asterisk on it as well. So it is a required field, but it'll just default to 0 if you're not using departments on there. So I'm not using departments, so I'm just going to leave it as 0. But again, there is a drop-down box that you can use. You can select your department that you would like to use from there as well. And the same with nominal codes. You can split transactions over multiple departments as well if you need to. And the next column is our fund column on there. So this is just if you've enabled charities from the drop-down list. So you can choose the required fund. If you're not using some of these headings on here, you can right-click on them and you can just remove them from here as well. So it'll just hide them. So say you're not using charities, you can click on fund, it'll just remove it from there. You can just right-click again and pop it back in there. And it'll pop it back in there again for us. The next column is your project reference, and we've got cost code next to it. So if you're on the professional level of the software and it's related to a project, you can enter the project reference here. And if you're using a project costing, you can enter the cost code into here as well. So both have a drop down, but I'm not using projects on there, but that's what that would be for. Then we've got our details column on there. So you have up to 60 characters to play with, so quite a bit of detail can be recorded in there. I'm just going to type in office equipment. I'm going to tab along. So, and then we've got our, if I can spell office right, I'll just put the C in there. And then next we've got our net column. So I know how much I paid gross for the items, but there is a handy function called calculate net just at the top here. So if I type in, I know that I paid £500 gross for the items, but I need to work out the net amount and the tax amount. If I click on calculate net at the top, it will work out how much tax and how much the net amount is by the tax code that I have selected in there. So that's a handy little tip. You can also just click on F9 on your keyboard and it'll do exactly the same thing. The tax code in the next column on there, so this just depends on how much VAT you pay on different goods and services. So there's a really good article on our Sage Help Centre called Default Tax Code, which helps you find the correct tax code by answering a few questions about your sale or your purchase. So you can also, it's the same as your department and your nominal code. You can split transactions over multiple tax codes as well. So if you're not too sure about which tax code to use, have a look at that guide, or you can also speak to HMRC about that as well. But that would be where your tax code comes from, and that dictates your tax amount on there for it. So I'm going to enter a couple of more transactions on here. So I'm just going to tab along, and that'll take me down to my next line down here. Now I just want to copy the same bank account down there. So instead of having to go searching for it, you can just click copy cell above and it'll populate it for you. You can also click F6 on your keyboard. So I'm going to use the same date. So I'm just going to click F6. And I don't want a reference for this one. And I don't want an extra reference. I'm going to leave those ones blank. My nominal code, so I've bought some fuel for my van. So I'm just going to use the drop down and I'm going to type in fuel. I'm going to click return, and it's brought up my fuel and oil nominal code. It's already highlighted, so I'm just going to click OK. It'll take me across to my department. That's just, I'm going to leave that as 0 on there. I don't want to fund our project or cost code, so I'll leave those blank. And then in the details, I'm just going to type fuel in there. And I'm going to tab along to my net column. And I know that I paid £50 in total, so I'm just going to type in 50, and then on my keyboard, hit the F9 key, and that's going to calculate again the tax amount and the gross amount on there. And I'm just going to use my tab key on my keyboard, tab down to the next line, entering one more on there. So again, I'm going to hit F6 on my keyboard, or you can just click on the button up above where it says copy cell above. And I don't want a reference or an extra reference. I'm going to leave those blank. And then my nominal code this time. So I've bought some office chairs. So I'm going to use my drop down box and search again, this time for furniture. And you can abbreviate as well. So if I put just even fern in there, it will find, it's searching for these on there. So I've got 3 to choose from. I know it's my furniture and fixtures that I want. So I'm going to highlight that one, click OK. And it pops that nominal code in there for me. Again, I'm going to leave these ones blank because I'm not using charities or projects, departments, and it was for some office chairs. I'm going to pop that in there. And I do keep missing out the C in office for some reason, so I'll go back and just amend that. And then the net amount for those was, I don't know the net amount, so I'm going to put the gross amount 200. And I'm going to click on calculate net at the top, which again will work out based on my tax code how much the tax amount and the gross amount is. So we've got a total of £750 on there. So if I tab down and say I've started to type in the next one on there, and then think, oh, hang on, I don't need any more on there. This line, I actually needed to add in something else. I need to make a correction on there. If I try to click save on that, it will give me a message saying invalid or missing nominal code. Now, if you started going down and you started creating a line on here and you think, I don't want that line on there, you can just remove that by either hitting F8 on your keyboard, or just above here, you've got remove row. So if we click on remove row, it's just going to take me back up just to a clean one. Now I could save that now if I wanted to. But what I've realised is when I've entered this one here, I needed to split this line. So this £500, I needed to split this over 2 different nominal codes. So for some of this was going to be for office stationery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to amend it. So if I just click in the net box, and I know that actually £400 of it was my office equipment. So I'm going to type in 400. I'm going to click on calculate net. And that's given me the £400 there. But now what I need to do is I need to insert a line between these two so then I can pop in my office stationery. So if I tab down, tab across on there to here, and I want to insert a row in there. So again, you've got your F key, so it's F7 for this one, or we can click on insert row. That'll pop a row in here for me. And now I can pop in my office stationery with the same reference on there. And there's a reason for wanting to inserting it on here rather than underneath, and I'll show you and tell you just in a moment why that is. But if I click on F6, because I want to copy that bank account, same date, and I want the same reference, and I'm going to tab across to here, and I want a different nominal codes, and that's the reason for splitting this out. If I click on my drop-down box, and I'm just going to start typing in office and return, and we can see office stationery has a different nominal code to office equipment. So I'm going to highlight office stationery, click OK to that. I'm going to leave those for because I'm not using those, and now I'm going to put in office stationery. And that was for £100 gross. So I'm going to type in 100 in my net column, click calculate net, and that's worked out my net amount, my tax, and my gross amount, and we're back to £750 now. So I'm happy with these transactions that I've got in there. The reason for adding or inserting a line in here is simply because if you're using the same bank account, the same date, the same reference, and they're next to each other, like these 2 lines are next to each other here, and they're in the same batch window, what will happen is it will group those transactions in the bank activity for you. So that's the main reason that I wanted to do that. So I'm happy with these transactions. I'm going to save that now. And then I'm going to close out of that window. So we'll go into transactions. So just on the left-hand side there, if we just click on transactions, we've got them all in order. So I'm just going to drag this all the way down to the bottom. And we can see we've got these transactions. So I've got my 4 bank payments, office equipment, office stationery. We've got the fuel, and we've got the office chairs. If you do find that you've entered something incorrectly, or you need to delete one of them, you can click highlight them. You do have the option for edit and delete just at the top on there. But we'll just go into the bank activity. So back into bank accounts on the left-hand side. I'm going to highlight the bank there. You can either double click on it, or you can just click on activity, and it'll open that up. And we can see these transactions here. So this is what I was going to just mention about the grouping on here. So we can see the office chairs, £200, fuel, £50, and the office equipment and the stationery together of £500. Now, if I click on that one, so we've got the total was 500 that I spent in that shop, but it breaks it down here for you. So we can see it was made up of £400 of office equipment and £100 of office stationery there. So that's what I mean by grouping those transactions. So I can see a question coming in from Jane just asking, what do I mean by grouping those transactions? So I won't go into too much detail, just there is a full webinar in itself on grouping transactions. There is one available just on our recordings page, on the webinars page, on our help centre, but the grouping of the transactions, it's just to make it easier to analyse and reconcile your bank transactions. So you can group related entries in your bank activity and your bank reconciliation windows, and it just means that it's a bit easier when you're looking to on your bank statement. So see if you've got that £500 on your bank statement and you've grouped those transactions when entering them, it just makes it a bit easier to match off when you're running that bank reconciliation. So for example, if I'd bought office furniture, stationery and computers all from the same place, and I've got one total for the purchase on my bank statement of £500, when I come to do my bank reconciliation, it's just a bit easier to spot it because you're not looking for all those separate transactions which add up to the £500. But like I say, there's a whole webinar on grouping transactions on our help centre, along with step-by-step guides on it too. So if you would like any more information on that, that's just on our help centre. I'll close out with this banking activity. Close that there. And then we'll just have a look at the bank receipt window on there as well. So like I was saying, it looks pretty much exactly the same as the bank payment window on there. But obviously a bank receipt is just the same process, but you're recording money coming into your bank account in Sage 50 accounts. So it could be something like a one-off cash sale, recording bank interest maybe, but the process is just the same when filling in the fields. So say I wanted to record a cash sale on there. So if I'm just using the same bank account, if I tab across on there, we use the same date. I'm just going to leave the references. I'm just going to say 4,000 for a sale on there for it. And I leave the department and funds and projects blank on there. And if we just say cash sale and say it's for £200 gross, we click on calculate net at the top, and there we've got that net amount there, and we've got the tax amount as well, and it's split that out for us. We've got 200 in total, got the tax amount and the net amount, and that's receiving money into the bank. So if I click save on that, and I'm going to close out of it, we'll just have a look in transactions just to see what the difference looks like on there. Just go down a little bit further, just wouldn't say that additional one. So we can see here we've got the bank payments that we entered before, and then at the bottom we've got that bank receipt. So that's money coming into the account on there, into your bank account. So that's what that would look like there as well. So Simon's just asked a question, how can you remove grouping or avoid it on there? So the program, it's automatically set to group the transactions within the bank on there. But if I just go back into bank accounts, and I'm just going to click on bank payment on there. So you could just enter in one line, so just one on its own. So if you're using the same bank, the same date, same reference, if you've just got the one line and then you save it and then come back, open another window, enter in the same, so if you've still got the same bank, date and reference, but it's on a separate window, it won't batch them. So that's one way of doing it. So you could just post them in separate windows. Or we do also have, if you have sort of the access to it on there, if you click on settings at the top, and if we go down to bank defaults, and it'll open up a little window just on my other screen there. If I drag that over, by default, it's set to group transactions or group bank transactions. So if you untick that, that would also stop that. It's not a retrospective change on there. So the checkbox, if it was clear before posting the transactions, they're not going to then group them when the box is selected. And that's the same for if the transactions are grouped using this option. Clearing this box doesn't ungroup them. You can post, like I say, you can post them in separate windows as well. That's also a way of going around that too. But if you don't want them grouped at all, you can just untick that box and that would do the same thing. But that's set by default on there just to do that. So I'll pop back into my program there, into my slides. So when you post a bank payment, the transaction type depends on the account type in the bank record. So the transactions will appear on your audit trail as a BP, so that's what we were posting before, payments from a bank account, a CP, payments from a cash account, or a VP, which are payments from a credit card account. So V just standing for Visa there. And for bank receipts, they would appear as a BR, so that's what we've just posted at the end there. That's a receipt from a bank account. A CR, a receipt from a cash account, and a VR, which is a receipt from a credit card account. So there are alternative ways to show bank payments, receipts within bank payments and receipts within your Sage 50 accounts. And I've added some links to our webinars just explaining a bit more on there. So you can import them using our import templates. You can also use bank feeds, which saves you time by connecting your software securely just to your live bank account. So it downloads your bank account transactions and automatically posts them into your software. Or you could also use reoccurring items as well, where you create the entry once and then when needed, process them all simultaneously. And there's even reminders in there which help to ensure that you don't forget to process them. So we do have our Sage Help Centre as well, where you can search for help if you do need it, just by visiting sage.co.uk/help. So the links are on the slides, but if you search for bank payment or bank receipt, you would find an article just with the step-by-step instructions on there, just on how to process them if you did want to revisit it. You can also access our Sage University from here too, which is just free to create an account on there as well. If you do have any further questions, I'm just going to keep this open a moment longer because I can see Michael's just answering a few questions there for people, just to see if anything else is coming through. You will also get a recording of the webinar via your email in about an hour's time too. So if you do need to sort of forward it on to colleagues for them to have a look at as well, you can do that as well. And just while we finish answering the last few questions, I just want to let you know that Back by Popular Demand is our one-to-one bespoke training session. So these are block hour sessions, which are over Teams with one of our trainers who can provide training and answer your questions around how you want to use your software. So it might be that you just want to make sure that you're getting the most out of the program, or you might have some new starters who you want to get up to speed on using the software. But if it does sound like something you would find useful, just pop an email to us just at the email address on the bottom of the slide there, and then we can get back in touch with you with a bit more further information. But it's just that email address, lsenablement1@365sage.net, and then we can pop an email back over to you. You can also access our webinars page at sage.co.uk/webinars. All the past recordings are on there. They're all free to view as well, along with signing up for our upcoming webinars with the link on the slide. But I'll pop back in just to show you how you can get to that on there. So I'll just go and open that up for you. So if I go just into Google Chrome on there, and if I just search for sage.co.uk/webinars, and it'll just take us straight onto our help centre there. So we do have all of our other webinars available from here as well. We've got payroll on here, you've got Sage Business Cloud, there's HR advice. This is the one that we would want our Sage 50 accounts live. Just along the top as well, I'll just point out too, you can also access our Sage University from here as well. But if I click on Sage 50 accounts live, it'll open up another page for me, which has got all of our 50 accounts webinars on here. So if I scroll down, just here you can view all the previous recordings. So just at your own leisure on there. And then if I scroll a bit further down, you'll see currently we're running a badge series of webinars for the Report Designer covering 7 topics. So these run throughout September and October, and it's just to introduce you to the workings and functionality of the Report Designer for Sage 50 accounts as well. But a bit further down, you'll see we've also got other quick learns and other webinars. We've got bank reconciliation, we've got Sage Copilot, batch supplier payment. So there's a lot in there just to have a look at and get signed up for. But that brings us to the end of today's session around creating bank payments and receipts. So you'll get a survey when leaving the session today. So I'd love it if you could leave us any feedback or any comments around what else you'd like to see a webinar on perhaps. But I hope today's quick learn's been helpful for you on there, and thank you for attending. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day there.